My name is Cadence Hughes. I'm the outreach coordinator for Ignite Youth International. I'm here with Nancy. If you want to introduce yourself and just, tell us about your organization and like the mission behind it.
Okay, I'm Nancy Coryell, and I'm the president of Roe Fund, which is a nonprofit based in Oklahoma. And our mission statement is to help fund low income and no income women to abortion access. The organization's been around 25 years. I've only been involved for about 10 or 7, between 7 and 10 years. It was originally the Oklahoma Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice. And it was an organization that brought religious leaders around our community together that were all pro-choice. And we just rebranded to Roe Fund like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Um, and our goal has not changed. It's just to help people access abortion care when they need it. Before Roe fell, which was in June of last year, our governor in Oklahoma, who's very red and does not believe in the separation of church and state, wants to instill quote unquote Christian principles on all of his constituents, signed a total abortion ban in March of last year. So Oklahomans lost all abortion rights in March, even before Roe fell. But what we're finding is it's not keeping people from having abortions. It just makes it more complicated. And kind of the understanding in the community of reproductive justice fighting, all the organizations all over the country, all abortions are 100% funded now because so many people have been incensed about losing abortion rights that money has come pouring into all the organizations. So it used to be we could only give $150 to someone to help. But with all the funding we've gotten in the last 9 months, we're able to completely fund an abortion if the person does not have the money. The day after our governor signed that bill, we had 8,000 people worldwide that donated.
Wow.
And since March 26th of last year, when our governor outlawed abortions, we've had meetings every 4 days, every week, because we have so much money coming in. Like 10 times the amount we usually get in donations in a year has come in the last 9 months. So we've been having to figure out how are we going to appropriate that money, because the clinics in Oklahoma are all closed. For a while, we were trying to figure out how to do practical support, which means how does a woman get to the abortion? If she's having to travel out of state, what if she needs gas money or a plane ticket or a bus fare or a ride? And then she needs food, and then she needs daycare for the kids that are at home. So we tried doing that for a while, but our board is 6 people. We're all volunteers. We all work full time. That was really beyond what we could do. So we made the decision, since we had all this money, we're just giving money to organizations that do practical support in the surrounding states. So we've given away $350,000 in the last 9 months. When Texas lost their abortion rights, we made a decision as the board to also help surrounding states people get access to abortion care. And before Roe fell, before our governor outlawed abortion, we were helping about 25 to 30 women a month, which is not very many, but that's what we could afford to do financially. And I think at this point, we're helping 200 to 300 a month, every month. Yeah. So we're helping more people, and it's more expensive because we have to help them get out of state now too. But we're still trying to make sure that everybody that needs an abortion can get one. I think them making it illegal nationwide, or at least changing Roe, dropping Roe, has really backfired on them. legislature is never going to grant us abortion rights. But, you know, writing letters to our legislatures and going down to protest at the Capitol and doing marches, that's not going to make a darn bit of difference because our legislature does not care what the people think. They think it's a moral imperative that they have to stop abortions. So we have to give up trying to talk our legislatures into voting how we want. We have to either vote them out of office or we have to get it on the ballot so that the individuals can make the decision to get it a law, to get it in our Oklahoma Constitution. So that's kind of what we're working on. And I think, just personally, I think one of the ways we're going to change it nationwide is to destigmatize abortion and for people to realize how common it is. I mean, that may backfire with the religious right, but 1 out of 4 women in this country will have an abortion. Most people don't have any idea it's that common. And kind of like when the LGBTQ community got marriage equality passed, what worked was it turns out everybody knows and loves someone that's gay. And when you put that in the same framework with abortion, everybody knows somebody that's needed an abortion. It might be your daughter, it might be your cousin, it might be your wife, but everybody loves somebody that's had an abortion. And I think when we make that more apparent, we ought to be able to do something. I mean, if Ireland, which is a Catholic country, can get abortion as a constitutional right, we ought to be able to do it in the United States. You know, it just impacts your whole life not being able to make that decision.
Having a child isn't the same thing as, like, going to the store and, "Oh, I just bought like, I have to buy milk." Like,
Right,
that's completely different. It's
right.
just like a
It's much, much more
yeah.
dangerous to have a baby than it is to have an abortion. The only thing I think could maybe affect people is if you were use the word freedom, like the US is founded on the principle of individual freedom. And you can do what you want with your body, and I need to be able to do what I want with my body.
I
That
couldn't
might be something that resonates.
yeah,
But
because,
but they honestly feel like they're saving a life,
mhm.
right? You know, they feel like it's murder. And how do you fight that? For us to say, I don't believe it's murder. I don't believe it's a baby yet. You know, it doesn't impact them. Both Texas and Oklahoma in their laws say it's illegal to aiding and abetting is illegal. And so a lot of organizations have been really fearful that even helping someone get out of state to get an abortion could be considered illegal. But the understanding with all the attorneys around the country that are fighting this is it can never be illegal to help someone leave the state to get a legal abortion. That you can't restrict people from traveling. None of us are wanting to break any laws, but we're willing to do everything we can to help people get to where it's legal to have one. Our other goal is to get it legal in Oklahoma and nationwide. You know, we want it to be a US law that abortion is a woman's right because people have to have the right to control their own body. If you can't control your own body, you can't control your life. You know, you
I
have to be able
definitely
to
agree.
make those decisions for economic reasons and social reasons and health reasons. Um, yeah, it's crazy. I was at a seminar, a symposium a couple of weeks ago put on by one of our really good private colleges here in Tulsa. And there was a panel of Native American women that also spoke at this thing. And one of the things they brought up, which I thought was really interesting, and I'd never thought of it like this, is all of us old white women that are in this fight, and there's a lot of us, that we're coming from a place of privilege, which we are. Like their point was, the fall of Roe didn't really affect them very much because they didn't have access to abortion to begin with. Because they couldn't afford it. They didn't have the transportation to get there. You know, just the fact that a medical abortion costs $650, that's out of reach for a lot of people. And if you live in a rural community and you don't have transportation, or if you live on a reservation and you don't have transportation, it didn't affect them that much that Roe fell. They didn't have access to abortion to begin with.
So I think that a goal that we should have as a nation is to just like make it more accessible for everyone and not just
Yeah.
be for, like you said, like white women who need it. It should be for all like minorities, indigenous people, and anyone who would need access to it.
Yeah. And I really think the way to do that personally, um, the majority of abortions that are happening with medication abortions. They're pills, right? Um, the cheapest one you can find is $650. That's ridiculous to go to a clinic and pay $650 for pills. You know, they're over the counter in India for $19. You know, and I'm not saying I think it should be over the counter here, but I think telehealth abortions need to be everywhere. And I think every state should allow that. Like Oklahoma does not allow telehealth abortions. Oklahoma does not allow self-managed abortions. Um, and I think that's one of the biggest ways to solve the logistics problem and the money problem is to make the medication cheaper and to do telehealth abortion so that people can do it from home and not have to travel. I would tell them to go to plancpills.org and do a telehealth abortion and have the pills mailed to you. As long as you're before 12 weeks, there's no problem with it. I think if you're, you know, if it's a case where something is wrong with the baby and they found that out in an amnio and you have to have an abortion at 20 weeks, that's a whole different ball game. That's a surgical abortion. You know, that means you have to go to a clinic in a different state that allows it. And around here, that's Colorado. We need better sex education and better access to birth control. Because I think an abortion should be available to anybody for any reason. But I also would prefer people to not get pregnant if they don't want a baby.
Especially since a lot of places, I know some schools don't even teach like sexual education because they don't think that if they don't teach it, people won't go out and have sex, which is completely false because then
Right.
people don't even know the risks of what they're doing and they don't know if they should be using birth control or condoms to prevent STDs and pregnancies. They just like they're
Yeah.
completely sheltered and it changes their view.
Yeah. And Oklahoma is one of those states that does not do a good job of teaching sex education. We don't do a good job at anything, which is crazy. You know, keep expressing your views, keep being open to changes. Um, we just can't let them get away with this. We just have to stay political and have to keep in the fight.